Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. James Carter, at 40 years old, ran a chain of luxury restaurants across the country. He was admired, feared, respected. But that morning, as he stepped outside his main restaurant to make a phone call, something made him stop. In the middle of the city's busy rush, he saw a woman sitting on the ground, a thin blanket over her shoulders, holding a small child in her lap. Her eyes were down, but when she looked up, time seemed to stop. Clara, he said her name almost without thinking, as if the word came straight from his heart before his mind could catch up. She blinked a few times, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her face was thinner, her hair shorter and dull, but it was her. The same deep green eyes, the same strong and gentle expression. The child in her lap, a little girl with auburn curls and a scared look, held tightly to her mother's chest. "James," Clara whispered, like she was sharing a secret she never meant to say out loud. He felt the ground disappear beneath him. It had been nearly 15 years since she vanished. No explanation, no note, no goodbye. It was like she'd disappeared off the face of the earth, leaving a wound in him that never truly healed. Without thinking, James took off his designer coat and knelt down, placing it over Clara's shoulders. "What happened to you?" he asked, his voice softer than he expected. Clara lowered her eyes. "It's a long story." The little girl, frightened, buried herself deeper in her mother's arms. The scene unfolding in front of the upscale restaurant was already drawing attention. Employees, customers, even people walking by stopped to see the most powerful man in town kneeling in front of a homeless woman. "Come with me now," James said, holding out his hand. "I can't. You can, and you will. Trust me." Carefully, he helped Clara to her feet. The little girl, who looked about 3 years old, clung to her mother's neck. James didn't say another word. He led them into the restaurant, ignoring the puzzled looks from the waiters and the manager. "Get a hot meal ready now, and bring clean clothes." His tone was firm, and no one dared to question him. In a private room reserved for VIP guests, James closed the door and sat across from Clara. The silence between them felt heavy, almost suffocating. "Where have you been all this time?" She swallowed hard. The little one was now asleep, her face resting on her mother's shoulder. "James, I left because I thought it was the right thing to do. I didn't want to ruin the future you were building," he frowned. "That makes no sense." A tear slipped from her eye. "It does. It does when you find out you're pregnant at 18 with no support, no money, and the only man you love is about to get a scholarship to one of the best universities in the country." James went silent. His heart skipped in a strange, confused way. "You were pregnant?" She nodded, eyes full of tears. "I had a baby, Liam, but I couldn't raise him. I was alone with nothing. I gave him up for adoption." Her words hit like a punch to the gut. James leaned back in his chair, trying to process what she had just said. Clara watched him, anxious. She wasn't expecting forgiveness, not even understanding. She just wanted him to know the truth. "I've lived with that guilt every day. It never went away," she said softly. James took a deep breath. He felt a knot in his chest, a mix of anger, sadness, surprise, and something he didn't want to admit, relief for finally knowing the truth. "And her?" he asked, nodding toward the child. "Isabel, my daughter from another marriage. My husband died in an accident. He wasn't a good man. He left us in debt, and I lost everything. We've been on the streets for a few weeks now." A waiter came in, breaking the moment, bringing warm plates and a small tray of fruit. Clara quietly thanked him. Isabel woke up to the smell of food and slowly opened her eyes. When she saw James, her eyes widened with curiosity. "Mommy, who is he?" "An old friend of Mommy's, sweetheart." James smiled gently. "Hi, Isabel. You can call me James." The little girl smiled shyly and took a bite of bread. James watched them for a while. That image of a hungry child and the woman he once loved, now so broken, stirred something deep inside him. "You're spending tonight in a hotel. Tomorrow, we'll talk more." Clara wanted to say no, out of pride, out of fear, unsure how to accept help from someone she had hurt so deeply. But she simply nodded because, for the first time in many years, someone was treating her with dignity, and she didn't know that this gesture would change everything. The hotel room was simple but comfortable. Clara didn't know how to react when she saw the soft bed, the clean bathroom, the sheets folded so neatly. After weeks of sleeping in crowded shelters, cold sidewalks, and station benches, That space felt like an almost unreachable luxury. Isabel ran to the window, amazed by the city view. "Mom, you can see the top of the world from here." Clara smiled, kneeling beside her daughter. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she whispered, holding her little hand. Outside, James waited in the hotel lobby. The driver was ready to take him back to the office, but he couldn't leave. The image of Clara and Isabel stayed with him. Something inside had been stirred, an old instinct, long forgotten but still alive, a mix of protection and love. And maybe, just maybe, a need to make up for what couldn't be saved in the past. While he waited, James picked up his phone and called Daniel. "Daniel, the first need you to get documents, clothes, and everything a woman and a child might need. Her name is Clara Thompson, and the girl Isabel." "Who?" Daniel asked, suspicious. "Just do what I asked. Is this about the woman from this morning? The one sitting on the sidewalk?" "That's right. She's going to work with us." "What? James, are you out of your mind? Do you even know her?" "I know her better than anyone." "Just do it tomorrow. I want her at the Soho location as an assistant manager. Start the hiring process right away." James hung up before Daniel could argue further. He knew he was going against all the rules of his own empire. He always said his network stood for professionalism above all, but at that moment, his heart spoke louder than any policy. The next morning, Clara woke up to the sound of the TV. Isabel was already sitting on the carpet, glued to a cartoon. Clara stretched, and for a moment, forgot she was in a hotel room. Only when she noticed the clean clothes hanging over the chair and the new bag someone had quietly left during the night, did reality hit her. She sighed, feeling both grateful and a little ashamed. 2 hours later, she stood at the entrance of the Soho restaurant. The automatic doors opened as she stepped forward, revealing an elegant space with glass walls, dark wood, and the gentle scent of fine spices in the air. She felt out of place. Even dressed in professional clothes, with her hair neatly tied back, the uncertainty was still in her eyes. A young woman with blonde hair and a sharp gaze approached. "You must be Clara." "I'm Lauren, the general manager here." Clara extended her hand politely. "Thank you for having me." "Direct orders from the boss," Lauren said with a half smile, though her eyes still scanned Clara from head to toe. Within the first few minutes, Clara could already feel the weight of curious looks, quiet whispers, and judging glances from her co-workers, but she was used to it. Being invisible on the streets had taught her that the world tends to judge before it asks. By the end of the day, she had memorized the menu, learned how the internal system worked, and avoided 3 attempts at casual conversation about her connection with James. She left exhausted, but with her head held high. James followed everything from a distance, reading the reports and listening quietly to the feedback. He didn't want to interfere too much, but he also couldn't stay completely detached. That evening, he decided to visit the Soho location unannounced. He found Clara in the office, organizing papers, dressed in a spotless uniform and looking focused. She turned and smiled when she saw him. "Good evening, Mr. Carter," she said playfully. "Mr. Carter? That's new." He smiled back, crossing his arms. "How was your first day? Challenging, but fair. Was anyone unpleasant?" "Nothing I can't handle." He watched her for a moment, admiring not just the beauty that was still there, but her strength, the way she stood firm, even while carrying so much inside. "I have a proposal," James said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. "It's a 3-month contract as assistant manager. Full salary, housing included, health insurance too. 3 months. Long enough for you to get back on your feet, or to convince me to keep you forever." Clara held the envelope with trembling hands. "Why are you doing this?" "Because one day you believed in me when no one else did, and maybe now it's my turn to return that." She tried to answer, but something in his eyes made her stay silent. It was a look that said more than words ever could. But while they shared that quiet moment, across the city, Daniel stared at his computer screen, frowning. On the screen there was an old photo, James and Clara, at 18 lying on the grass in a park, laughing. And in his drawer, a yellowed, wrinkled letter, a letter he had written himself, pretending to be Clara. James was watching the activity in the dining room of one of his most prestigious restaurants, but his mind was far away. Even in the middle of a strategic meeting with his team, he couldn't focus. The executives' voices sounded like background noise, while flashes of Clara filled his thoughts. The way she smiled shyly, her steady gaze even when she was trembling inside, the way she cared for little Isabel. "James," Daniel called, gently touching his shoulder. "Sorry, what did you say?" Daniel exchanged a look with the other managers and quietly dismissed the team with a subtle gesture. Once the room was empty, he crossed his arms and looked at James with the weight of something uncomfortable. "Do you really think this is a good idea? What are you talking about? Putting a woman who used to live on the streets in charge as assistant manager at a high-end restaurant? You're putting a lot of trust in someone who disappeared for nearly 15 years. James leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, and looked at his friend with determination. "You know what she went through. Neither do you." The silence between them stretched. Daniel took a few steps around the room before continuing. "You've always been a man of logic, James. You calculate everything. Since when do you follow your heart?" "Since I saw someone I thought was dead." His reply was sharp, carrying a weight Daniel hadn't expected. "I'm just trying to protect you." James looked at him for a few seconds. "Are you trying to protect me? Or do you know something I don't?" Daniel hesitated for a split second, but then he composed himself. "Don't start. I'm not starting anything, but you're way too nervous for someone who's just trying to help." At the Soho restaurant, Clara was in the storage room, organizing the weekly orders. She was trying to stay focused, but the whispers in the dining area and the looks from her co-workers were getting heavier. The rumor that she had come straight from the streets had spread like wildfire. Lauren, the general manager, walked in without knocking. "Everything all right in here?" "Yes, I'm just adjusting the supplier orders." Lauren crossed her arms. "Listen, can I be honest?" Clara nodded. "I don't know who you used to be in the boss's life, but around here, everything is based on merit. If you mess up, don't expect any special treatment. I don't expect it, and I don't want it." Lauren held her gaze for a moment, then walked out, leaving a heavy tension in the air. Clara sighed and clenched her hands. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry at work. Not anymore. That night, James showed up unexpectedly with a bag of toys for Isabel. "You're going to spoil that girl," Clara said with a smile as her daughter ran to hug him. "Someone has to show her the world has a little sweetness." Isabel climbed into his lap without hesitation, as if she'd known him for years. James gently stroked her hair, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. "Can we talk alone?" he asked. Clara followed him to the balcony of the temporary apartment James had arranged for them. The night air was cool, and the city lights sparkled like scattered jewels on the horizon. "I thought about you all these years," he began, looking down. "I thought about you too, every single day." "Then why didn't you try to find me?" "Because I was ashamed. I ruined what we had, and after I gave Liam up, I felt dead inside." Her voice cracked. "I didn't think I deserved another chance." James widened his eyes. He remembered Clara saying she was pregnant when she left, but he hadn't asked anything back then. Now the question hit him like a wave. He stayed quiet for a few seconds, as if trying to make sense of the words. Then he asked, voice shaking, "Wait, Liam is my son too?" Clara looked away. Her heart was racing, her lips dry. For a moment, she thought about lying, but she couldn't. Not anymore. "Yes, Liam is your son, James." The world seemed to slow down around him. He took a step back, like he needed to breathe. The name, the truth, the realization everything came crashing down at once. A son he had, a son who existed and whom he had never met. Clara continued, her voice heavy with emotion. "I had nowhere to go, James, no support, and I thought with another family, he'd have a chance I couldn't give him." James took a deep breath. He felt a knot in his chest, a mix of anger, sadness, surprise, and something he didn't want to admit. Relief for finally knowing the truth. "I'm going to find him," he said at last. "If you want me to?" Clara slowly nodded, torn between fear and hope. It was an old dream buried under layers of guilt. "Do you think he'll want to see us?" "There's only one way to find out." Meanwhile, Daniel was walking through the back parking lot of the Soho restaurant, phone to his ear. "I want to know everything about this woman, her past records, anything I can use." The voice on the other end responded quickly. "I can dig up some old files, but it's going to cost you. Money is not an issue. I just need a reason to get her out of the way." Daniel hung up and looked at his reflection in the car window. As much as he didn't want to say it out loud, there was a fire of anger burning inside him. He had loved Clara since he was 18. That's why he forged the letter. That's why he sabotaged their chance. And now, seeing her back and taking up space in James's heart, a place he never had, was unbearable. But he still had a few cards to play, and this time he'd play them all. That night, James barely slept. The news that he had a 9-year-old son echoed in his mind like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. Every time he thought about the name Liam, his heart tightened, a mix of guilt and urgency he had never felt before. Early in the morning, before the sun even rose, he was already at the office. He sat down in front of his computer, opened his email, and typed one line: "I need the best investigators to find a child given up for adoption in New York 9 years ago. Mother's name Clara Thompson," and he sent it to his personal lawyer. Meanwhile, Clara was getting ready for another day at the Soho restaurant. Despite the dark circles under her eyes, she held her head high. Isabel was still sleeping in the next room, holding tight to the new stuffed bunny James had given her. On her way to the restaurant, Clara felt the weight in her chest. Telling James the truth had been a relief, but it also left a wound wide open. Now that he knew about Liam, everything could change. What if he judged her? What if he wanted to take the boy from her? Even though they didn't have him anymore, she still remembered the day she signed the adoption papers, her vision blurry and her hands shaking. She never forgot the smell of the hospital pillow, the warmth of his tiny body in her arms, or the pain of leaving him behind, knowing she'd never have another chance to see him again. Now there was a chance, and she wasn't sure she was ready. Across town, Daniel was sitting at a quiet coffee shop with a man who looked ordinary but had sharp eyes. "His name is Liam Thompson," the man asked, typing on his laptop. "Just Liam, Clara's son. He must have been adopted from a hospital somewhere in the city about 9 years ago." The man kept typing, eyes glued to the screen. "I can find out where he is, but you have to tell me exactly why you care so much. Because if someone finds out, I just want to protect my best friend," Daniel said without hesitation. The man looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "It's going to cost me to get into the adoption system, but give me 2 days, and I'll have an answer for you." Daniel walked out of the cafe with a slight smile on his face. That was it. If he found the boy before James did, he'd be in control of the situation. And with control, he could shape the future. That afternoon, James showed up at the Soho restaurant. No warning. He just walked in and looked for Clara. She was in the kitchen, supervising a delivery. "I need to talk to you," he said, calm but serious. Clara followed him into one of the office rooms. Her heart was racing. She had known this moment would come. "I hired a team to try and locate Liam," he began. "They're already looking into the adoptions from that time." Clara nodded, swallowing hard. "And if they find him, the choice to reach out will be yours," James said gently. "But I would like to meet him if he's open to it." Tears welled up in her eyes. That response was more than she had hoped for, more than she felt she deserved. "Thank you for not hating me, Clara. I don't hate you. I just don't know how to process all this yet." She nodded, understanding. "And what about Isabel?" James smiled for the first time that day. "She's already won me over, no doubt about it." Clara laughed, relieved, but that relief wouldn't last long. At the end of her shift, Lauren, the restaurant manager, pulled her aside. "I heard James stop by again," she said, trying to sound casual. "He just came to talk about some personal things." "Right. And I also saw the new contract in the system, housing, full benefits, salary above average. Not bad for someone who was sleeping on the street a week ago." Clara bit her tongue. She wasn't going to reply. "Not here. Just hope you know what you're doing," Lauren added with a fake smile. Clara walked away. She was tired of having to prove her worth. But what she didn't know yet was that someone far more dangerous than Lauren had their eye on her and had plans. The next morning, James received an email from the investigation team with the subject, "Important development on Liam." He opened it right away. "We found matching adoption records. A boy named Liam was adopted by a family living in Connecticut. The details match the birth date Clara provided. We are reaching out to the family to explore the possibility of a visit." James froze for a moment. It was real. His son was out there, not too far away. 9 years apart now, narrowed down to just a few lines of text. One step. He picked up the phone and called Clara. "We need to talk now." Daniel, meanwhile, was receiving the same information through another source. "They found the boy," the informant said. "Who's the family?" "A couple, Greg and Susan Hayes. He's a teacher. She works at a community center. No biological children. Seems like the boy is well taken care of." Daniel hung up and stared out at the street ahead. So, it was true. The child existed, and James was one step away from getting him back. He would have to move faster than ever, and be more ruthless than he'd ever been. Breathing felt difficult. Clara gripped the phone tightly. sitting on the edge of the bed while Isabel slept in the next room. James's voice still echoed on the line. They found Liam. She couldn't respond right away. Her son's name hit her with the full weight of all the years she had tried to bury him deep inside her heart. "You're sure?" Her voice came out shaky, barely a whisper. "Yes." The team cross-checked the records. The family's name is Hayes. They live in Connecticut, and it seems Liam is doing well. Clara closed her eyes. A sharp wave of relief ran through her chest, mixed with fear. Knowing he was safe was all she had wanted. But now what? What could she possibly say to a 9-year-old boy she had left behind in desperation? "I don't know if I can do this, James. What if he hates me? What if he looks at me and asks why I left? If he asks, you'll tell him the truth. And if he hates you, you'll accept it. But what you can't do anymore is run." The silence that followed was heavy, but deep down, there was something else. A promise. They would face this together. 2 weeks later, on a sunny afternoon, James and Clara stood in front of a modest house with a well-kept garden. Isabel was in the back seat, flipping through a colorful book, while the two adults exchanged quiet glances. "Are you ready?" he asked. "No, but I'm going in anyway." Susan Hayes greeted them at the door with a kind smile. Her eyes held a mix of curiosity and care, like someone who understood the weight of the moment. "Please, come in. Liam's in the backyard with my husband. We told him you're special visitors." Clara swallowed hard. James gently took her hand. Greg Hayes, a soft-spoken man with a warm smile, appeared with Liam beside him. The boy had bright eyes, wavy black hair, and a curious smile. When he looked at Clara, there was no recognition, just a thoughtful, observant gaze, like a child trying to understand the world. "Hi, Liam," James said, crouching to his level. "My name's James, and this is Clara. Are you friends of Mom and Dad?" he asked, looking at Susan and Greg. "Sort of," Clara said, her voice unsteady. "Can we talk with you for a little bit?" Liam nodded. They went to a small table in the backyard where juice and cookies were already set out. Clara's hands were trembling, but the boy was sweet, curious, innocent. "Do you like to draw?" she asked, pointing to the scribbles on the paper on the table. "A lot. I want to be an inventor, like that guy on TV, you know." She laughed. "Of course I know. And you're going to be an amazing inventor." As they talked, James watched. There was no denying it. Liam had something of him, the eyes, the way he stood, even his gestures when he spoke. Seeing the boy there, growing up well and happy, stirred a deep ache and, at the same time, immense gratitude. Later that afternoon, Susan called Liam inside. "We'll give you some privacy," Greg said gently, guiding the boy away. Clara sat on the wooden bench under the tree. "I don't know if I can handle this, James. You were very brave today. I was a coward for 9 years. No, you survived, and now you're trying to make things right." She looked at him with eyes full of tears. "What if he never accepts me? Then you'll love him anyway." She cried quietly for the pain of yesterday, for the hope of today, and for all the nights she had gone to sleep, wondering what it would be like to hear that name again. Meanwhile, Daniel was watching the Hayes house from a distance. Sitting inside a rental car with tinted windows, he saw James leaving with Clara and Isabel. He took a few pictures with his phone. From the passenger seat, the informant asked, "Do you want me to release this?" "Not yet, but I want to stay one step ahead always." "And what do you get out of it?" Daniel stayed quiet. Then he said, "I loved her first, and he took her from me. Now he's going to learn what it feels like to lose everything." In the days that followed, James and Clara visited Liam a few more times, always with the Hayes' permission. The visits were gentle, relaxed, and unhurried. With each conversation, Liam seemed more at ease. During one visit, he walked up to Clara and asked, "Why do you always cry when you see me?" She smiled sadly. "Because I waited for you for a long time, and now that I'm near you, it's like my heart finally woke up." The boy hugged her, not understanding everything, but feeling something words couldn't fully explain. Isabel, on the other hand, had become the most talkative sister in the world. With every visit, she stuck to Liam like he had always been a part of her daily life. "When are we going to play again?" she asked every time they said goodbye. At James's company headquarters, things were starting to stir. Daniel had spread rumors among some investors, saying that James was emotionally involved with a former homeless woman who had an unstable past. One of the partners asked for a meeting in a concerned tone. "James, there are some rumors going around. Your reputation is at risk. Getting close to this woman could damage the company's image. That woman has a name, And what ruins a company's reputation is hypocrisy, not compassion. The partner shook his head. You're exposing yourself. Someone is clearly working against you. James stared at the wall for a few seconds. He was starting to understand where the attacks were coming from. That night, Clara got an unexpected call. The voice on the other end was cold and familiar, comfortable now, living like a princess while the people you destroyed are left behind. She recognized it instantly. Daniel, the first told you James was like a brother to me. You never deserved him. What do you want? I'm just getting started. Clara hung up, her heart pounding. Just then, James walked through the door. Clara, what happened? She hesitated, then said, It was Daniel. He called, said he's going to destroy you, and this is only the beginning. James clenched his jaw. That's enough. The next day, James called an urgent meeting with Daniel. I know what you're doing. You spread rumors, hired private investigators, and now you're trying to turn my partners against me. Daniel didn't deny it. I warned you. That woman is going to drag you down. Look at what you're doing. Throwing everything away for someone who ruined your life once. James stepped forward, eyes locked on his. You know what ruined my life? A letter forged in your handwriting saying she hated me. That was you, Daniel. Daniel went pale. You had no right to take her from me, and you no longer have the right to be at my side. You're out of the company as of today. Daniel tried to protest, but James had already turned around. A step forward, a decision made. And for the first time, blind loyalty was broken. The boardroom was silent. Daniel stood still, staring at James, as if he were waiting for him to change his mind, as if all the years of so-called loyalty could outweigh the very real betrayal he had just confessed. You're not going to do this to me, he finally said, breaking the silence. I already did, James replied flatly. And if you want to avoid a lawsuit for sabotage and defamation, I suggest you sign your termination papers without a fight. Daniel scoffed and took a step closer. All of this because of her? James didn't hesitate. No, this is because of you. Daniel's eyes lost their fire. For a moment, James almost saw the boy who had once been his best friend, the fast-talking kid who helped pack lunches in his grandmother's kitchen. But that boy was long gone. In his place stood a bitter man, angry over unreturned love and the choices he'd made. You're going to regret this, Daniel muttered before storming out, slamming the door behind him. James stayed quiet for a few moments, trying to calm the storm inside. He knew he had made the right decision, but the victory felt bitter. Outside, Clara sat in one of the lobby chairs. When Daniel walked past without even looking at her, she already knew what had happened. James followed soon after. His face was tense, but there was something new in his eyes, relief. He's gone? She asked softly. He's out of the company and out of my life. Clara held his hand tightly. I'm sorry. Don't be. He made his choice, and now I've made mine. She looked at him a little longer than she should have. The silence between them was filled with memories, regrets, and possibilities. In the days that followed, James focused more than ever on reconnecting with Liam. Their meetings became regular, always with the adoptive parents, Susan and Greg, present. They made it clear they were willing to support the connection, as long as it was done with respect and care. One afternoon, while James and Clara watched the children playing together in the yard, Isabel and Liam laughing with a water balloon in their hands, she walked over to James with a shy smile. He's like you when he's focused. James gave a small smile. And he has your stubbornness, Clara sighed. I don't even know how to thank you for all this. You don't have to thank me. You just have to stay. She turned her face toward him. She wanted to say more, but Isabel came running toward them, Liam right behind her, laughing. Mom! Mom! Liam's going to teach me how to draw rockets. Clara smiled. Then you'll be the world's first astronaut artist. And I'll be her rocket engineer. Liam added excitedly. James watched them, his throat tight. The scene in front of him was exactly what he never knew he needed, family. That night, Clara went out to the porch of the temporary apartment where she was staying. James was already there, quietly drinking coffee. The city buzzed in the background, but they felt like they were in a world of their own. I don't know if I can let all this happen, she said. What do you mean? It feels unreal. After everything I've done, after everything I've hidden, you didn't hide things because you wanted to. You were surviving. And what if Liam asks me one day why I left? James looked at her seriously. Then you tell him you were young, scared, and had no support, that you did the best you could, and you ask for forgiveness. That's all. She nodded, her eyes filled with tears. She moved closer and rested her head on his shoulder. James didn't pull away. Instead, he put his arm around her. "I'm sorry for everything," she whispered. "Me too." Meanwhile, Daniel was making his own quiet moves. He wasn't planning to disappear, not yet, and definitely not to let James rebuild his life so brightly. So, he went to the press, a journalist willing to publish a human interest story about Clara's past. 2 days later, the headlines started popping up. Former homeless single mom now working alongside restaurant mogul. Secret romance. Employee hired without qualifications. Criticism grows over James Carter's leadership. The article included old photos of Clara in shelters, details about her abusive marriage, and, more subtly, suggestions that she had caught James to secure her future. That same day, the board members called an emergency meeting. James was summoned. "This is out of control. The media is already questioning the company's credibility. Investors are on alert," one director said. "I'll handle it," James replied. "Personally, how do you plan to do that?" James was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up with the truth. The next morning, he called a press conference at one of the chain's restaurants. The cameras were in place, the journalists eager. James stepped up to the small stage, holding an envelope in his hands. "Over the past few days, there have been rumors about my personal and professional life, accusations that question the integrity of the company I built. So, I'm going to clear things up." Total silence. "Not long ago, I reconnected with Clara Thompson, someone who was very important to me in the past. Yes, she experienced homelessness, but that doesn't define who she is. What defines her is the strength she showed to rise again, the way she cares for her daughter, the dignity she kept even when the world turned its back on her." Camera flashes went off. "I hired her because I trust her, and because she's capable. And yes, we're building something personal. That doesn't make me less professional. On the contrary, it shows my faith in people." More flashes, murmurs. "And if that means some people will walk away from our brand, that's okay. But I want everyone to know that the values I stand for matter more than any contract." He stepped down from the stage to applause. Not everyone clapped, but those who knew him saw a new man emerge that day. Hours later, Clara watched the interview at home, tears in her eyes. Isabel was asleep beside her, worn out after another day of play. When James arrived, he found Clara standing at the door, holding an envelope. "You didn't have to do that," she said, her voice shaking. "Yes, I did. The world needed to hear it." She stepped closer. "I still carry a lot of fear." "So do I. But between being afraid and running away, I choose to stay with you." She hugged him tightly, and he hugged her back. And there, without big promises or dramatic declarations, the two of them just allowed themselves to breathe together. The following week, James was caught off guard by a phone call from Greg Hayes. "Liam's been asking if he can spend a weekend with you." James almost dropped the phone. "Of course he can. It would be an honor." Greg paused before continuing. "I just wanted to say I see the effort you're making, and I think he deserves to know the whole truth. With love, with respect. That's exactly what we're going to do." That Friday was unforgettable. Liam arrived with a backpack on his shoulders, full of excitement, and was greeted with hugs from Isabel and smiles from Clara. They spent the weekend playing, baking cakes, and building blanket forts in the middle of the living room. On Saturday night, after the kids had fallen asleep, James came up to Clara. "Do you think he's ready to know?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, and so are we." Sunday morning arrived quietly, almost respectfully. For the first time in a long while, Clara woke up without anxiety tightening her chest. Soft sunlight came through the window, warming the apartment floor, where 2 blanket forts still stood. In the center of the room, Liam and Isabel slept side by side, worn out from the night's adventures. James was already in the kitchen, making pancakes. He listened to the calm breathing of the kids and felt a different kind of peace, not the kind that comes from success or recognition, but from simply having them there, from the family that, against all odds, was being rebuilt. Clara tiptoed in, still in her pajamas. She smiled at the mess and at the care he was putting into flipping the pancakes just right. "You've become a full-on weekend dad," she joked. "I'm not sure if it's the hardest job or the most rewarding, but I'm enjoying it." She came closer and grabbed a cup of coffee. "Today's the day." "I know. I've thought of 1,000 ways to tell him, but none of them feel right, because there's no perfect way. It just needs to be honest, kind, and true." James nodded. He knew, and he felt the weight of it deep in his gut. Later, the four of them sat together in the living room after breakfast. Isabel was working on a puzzle on the rug, distracted. Liam held a toy car in his hands, but watched the adults with the kind of quiet attentiveness only sensitive children have. James took a deep breath, glanced at Clara, and then turned to the boy. "Liam, can I talk to you for a minute?" "Okay," the boy said, sitting beside him on the couch. "We wanted to tell you a story. A story that's about you, but also about Mommy, Clara, and me." Liam frowned, curious. "What kind of story?" "A story about choices and mistakes and love too," Clara said softly. "And about finding each other again." James leaned down so he was eye level with the boy. "A long time ago, when I was younger, I met a girl named Clara. We were very close friends, really close. And one day she had to leave without saying goodbye. At that time, she was going to have a baby." Liam's eyes widened. "She was your girlfriend?" "Yes." "And the baby was me?" The question came straight out, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Clara swallowed hard. "Yes, sweetheart, it was you." Liam stayed quiet. His eyes blinked quickly, as if he were processing every word. "Why did you leave?" She moved closer and held his hands. "Because I was very young. I was scared. I thought your life would be better with a family who could give you things I couldn't back then." "And why did you come back?" "Because I never stopped loving you. Not even for a second. I just didn't know how to fix what I had done until now." James leaned in too. "And I only found out you existed a short time ago. And ever since, all I've wanted is to be close to you, without taking anything away from anyone, just adding to it." Liam didn't cry. He didn't yell. He didn't run. He just sat there, eyes filled with tears, trying to make sense of everything. "So, are you my dad?" James felt his heart skip a beat. "Yes, if you want me to be." The boy looked at him for a long moment, then turned to Clara, and then he asked, "Will my parents now still be my parents?" "Always," Clara answered right away. "They're amazing, and they truly love you. That will never change." "And will you come visit me, or can I visit you?" "Whenever you want," James said with a soft smile. "We'll build this together at your pace." Liam didn't say anything for a while. He just rested his head on James's shoulder. And in that moment, without a single word, everything was understood. That afternoon, Isabel and Liam ran through the park, played frisbee, shared an ice cream, and built sandcastles in the park's makeshift playground. James and Clara watched them from a distance, sitting on a bench. "He understood more than I thought he would," James said, still carrying the weight of emotion in his voice. "Children feel what's real. It doesn't matter how you say it. If it comes from the heart, they know." James looked at her. "You talk like a mother who's been through a lot, but still knows how to love." Clara laughed, without hiding the sadness. "Because if I stopped loving, I'd stop living too." He held her hand. They sat there in silence for a moment, until she asked, "Do you think we're ready to really take this on as a family?" James didn't answer with words. He simply leaned in and touched his forehead to hers. The gesture said more than any speech could. Meanwhile, Greg and Susan were sitting on their porch, looking at a photo Clara had sent. Liam and Isabel were smiling, their faces messy with ice cream. "He looks happy," Greg said with a soft smile. "And I'm surprised I don't feel jealous," Susan added. "I think it's because I know love is never too much. He can have 2 dads and 2 moms, and be even more loved." Greg nodded. "Maybe what we're doing now is the greatest act of love we've ever given him, letting him know his whole story." On Monday, Clara returned to work with her head held high. The curious looks were still there, but now she walked differently, not because she was with James, but because she knew who she was. She knew what she was made of. At the end of the day, Lauren called her into the office. "I just wanted to say I was wrong about you," she began, getting straight to the point. "I thought you were just another one of the boss's favorites. But I've seen how you work with the team, how you get involved, how you listen." Clara raised her eyebrows, surprised. "Thank you. That means more than you know. And if you're really thinking of staying around, I might be able to recommend you for the executive training program in the network." Clara smiled, this time with pride. "I'd love that." That night, James made a simple dinner, but one full of meaning. Clara arrived carrying Isabel, and Liam came running in behind her, still in his school uniform. "My teacher praised me today," the boy shouted. "She said my essay was the most touching one in the class." "What was it about?" James asked. "My family." James and Clara exchanged a look. "And what did you write?" Clara asked. Liam shrugged. "That I have 2 homes, 2 moms, 2 dads, and 1 very loud sister. Isabel made an offended face, and everyone laughed. That night, they laughed a lot. They told stories, had a napkin war, and in the end, when the kids were asleep, James and Clara lay on the couch leaning against each other. "I never thought a new beginning could feel like this," she said. "Me neither. But now that it started, I don't want it to stop." She looked at him softly. "Me neither." The next morning began with laughter. James, still wearing his apron, struggled to keep the waffle batter under control, while Isabel insisted on adding colorful sprinkles on top. Liam, focused, watched every step like it was a science lesson. Clara stood by the kitchen doorway, just watching and feeling. Life seemed to have color again. After years of darkness and silence, that light family noise filled the space that used to be taken over by guilt. "Think you can handle having a kid watching your every move?" Clara asked, teasing. "I'm starting to like it. He makes me pay more attention to everything," James replied, smiling at Liam. That afternoon, Liam returned to Greg and Susan's home. The goodbye was calm, without tears, but with lots of tight hugs. They had become more than just the couple who raised him. They were the bridge between his past and present. "See you later, Dad," Liam said before getting into the car. It was the first time he used the word. James froze for a second, then smiled and nodded. The lump in his throat was too big to answer. 2 days later, Clara was going over the weekly schedule at the restaurant when an unexpected notification appeared on her phone. It was a message from an unknown number. "It's not over. You know what you did. The truth has a price." She stopped breathing for a moment. The phone nearly slipped from her hands. The number was different, but the style, the tone, the threat were unmistakable. It only took a few seconds for memory to do the rest. The past had come back. That night, as James was getting ready for another virtual meeting, Clara appeared at the office door, holding her phone. "I got this today," she said plainly. He read the message, frowned, and immediately took control. "Is someone threatening you?" "I think I know who it is," she replied in a low voice. "Remember when I told you that Isabel was born from a marriage that nearly destroyed me?" James nodded. "Her father, before he died, he used to make threats like this. He watched everything, had friends with shady connections, and I know he's gone, but he left traces behind people who still think I owe him something." James stood up, his voice firm. "This ends now. Tomorrow, we're hiring security. I want that number traced. If you feel threatened, we'll leave town for a few days. But no one is going to touch you. You're not alone anymore, Clara." She took a deep breath, trying to absorb the protection he was offering. The fear was real, but this time, she wasn't facing it alone. The next day, one of James's private investigators traced the number. They found out the message had been sent from a prepaid phone registered under a fake name, located near Clara's old house. She hadn't been back since she left, holding Isabel in her arms with her late husband's debts knocking at the door. "It could be someone from his circle, or someone trying to blackmail you now that your story is public," the investigator explained. "What if it's more than that?" she asked. "Then we'll find out," James said, "and we'll protect what's ours." That same week, while Clara tried to keep her routine at the restaurant, a woman quietly appeared among the customers. Thin face, heavy makeup, and a stare that froze Clara in place. "I can't believe it," she whispered, putting the tray down. The woman approached with a crooked smile. "Clara Thompson, never thought I'd see you here. And so well dressed, too." Vanessa was the sister of Clara's late ex-husband. For years, she pretended to support Clara while secretly helping him manipulate her. And now here she was, in the middle of the restaurant, seemingly ready to bring it all back. "I heard your story made the news." The boss fell for the former homeless woman. "Is that it?" Touching. Almost sweet. "Why are you here?" "Because there are things you forgot to pay, dear. Debts my brother left behind, and now they're on your shoulders. And if you don't want certain pictures and videos floating around, maybe we should have a nice, calm talk." Clara felt her blood run cold. Did Vanessa have copies of the old files? Those images from the darkest time with her husband, the time when she was humiliated, recorded, torn down piece by piece. "Are you blackmailing me?" "No. I'm offering you a chance to clear your conscience and keep the new little life you built. Think about it." That night, Clara told James everything. "For years, I suspected she had material to use against me, but I thought it disappeared when he died. And now she shows up, asking for money. Said if I don't pay, she'll release everything, even images of Isabel as a baby, things that should have never existed." James listened quietly. When she finished, he was pale but composed. "We'll handle this legally. I have the best lawyers in the city. If she publishes anything, it's a crime. We'll have her arrested. What if she acts before the law can stop her? Then we tell the truth before she does. What's the truth, Clara? What happened to you? The pain you went through, we'll tell it in our own way, with dignity. If someone wants to judge you after that, they don't deserve to be part of our lives." Clara looked at him, surprised by his resolve. "You really think someone could still accept me after knowing everything?" "I did. And more than that, I admire you." She didn't say a word. She just hugged him. And that night, for the first time, she didn't cry from fear. She cried from courage. 3 days later, James arranged another press conference. This time, Clara stood beside him, hand in hand. With a trembling but steady voice, she shared her story about her past with her ex-husband. She said she suffered, stayed silent, was humiliated, but she survived, and now she refused to be silenced by those who feed off others' pain. The press reacted with surprise. Some criticism came, but most applauded. Social media was filled with messages of support, especially from other women voices that had never felt heard before. Across town, Vanessa watched the press conference with anger in her eyes and trembling fingers, muttering, "She exposed herself before I could strike." But the move had been made, and now she was in the direct sights of James Carter's legal team. The following week, the Soho restaurant broke its record for reservations. People wanted to see the real story behind the business. And more than that, they wanted to support the woman who had the courage to tell her truth. Meanwhile, Liam and Isabel were planning a surprise performance for Saturday night's dinner. "Is it going to be like a wedding?" Isabel asked, as she drew hearts on a piece of paper. "They're not married yet, but it kind of feels like it," Liam said with a shrug. "Then let's make it a pretend wedding. Is that okay?" James overheard them from the hallway and smiled. "That's more than okay." That evening, when Clara got home, she found the apartment decorated with balloons and drawings taped to the walls. Isabel was wearing a borrowed white dress and a paper crown. Liam wore a crooked blazer and carried a big book, pretending to be the officiant. "We're gathered here today to celebrate the union of James and Clara," Liam said seriously, while Isabel held a crepe paper bouquet. Clara laughed, touched. "You two are something else. We're a family," Liam replied. And James, taking her hand, added, "One that doesn't need a ceremony to be real." But that same night, in the silence of a dark parking lot, a man with a worn face and a shadowed expression spoke on the phone. "She got away this time, but there's still something to be done." "And what do you suggest?" asked the voice on the other end. "What always works? Fear." The sound of the call ending echoed in the dark, and something about that night shifted. The house lights were already off when Clara woke with a start. There was no sound except the faint hum of the heater, but something in her body seemed to know an old instinct, a warning she recognized well, that chill down the spine that only comes when danger is near. She got up quietly and peeked out the living room window. Nothing out of the ordinary, but when she turned to go back to the bedroom, she noticed a shadow in the hallway. Still, "James," she called softly. The light came on suddenly. "It's me," he answered, appearing with his phone in hand. "I got a notification from the security system. Someone tried to break in through the side gate." She froze. "Isabel, Liam, they're asleep. They're safe. I already called security. No one got in." But the tone of his voice revealed what the words tried to hide. Fear had returned. And this time, it wasn't just blackmail or headlines. It was real, physical. The next morning, James upgraded the building's security and placed guards at the kids' school entrance. Clara didn't argue. She knew that kind of threat. People like that don't back down. They just change tactics. While organizing orders at the restaurant, she received a new message on her phone, a photo. It was Isabel, taken from a distance at the school playground, and below, a short message, "Pretty girl, shame if something happened to her." The phone fell from Clara's hand before she even realized it. James dropped everything when she called him, her voice nearly unrecognizable. "They're watching Isabel." He didn't ask for more details. He just got in the car, furious, his fingers shaking on the steering wheel. At the school, he found Clara holding their daughter tightly. Isabel, frightened, kept saying a strange man stood on the street for a long time, watching her. James knelt beside them. "This ends now. For real." That night, James called a meeting with his lawyer, the head of security, and a private investigator. "I want to know who's doing this, and I want them out of our lives. I don't care what it costs." "Vanessa's been off the radar since the press conference, but we have a new name," said the investigator. Mark Sullivan, former friend of Clara's late husband, criminal record, and he was seen near the school yesterday afternoon. Why is he doing this? Looks like he was paid, but he also has a history of obsession. From what we know, he was close to your ex-husband's family. Clara, who had been silent until then, whispered, "Mark, he threatened me before when I tried to leave the marriage." James gripped her hand tightly. "We'll protect you, all of you. What if he tries to take Isabel? He won't get near her again." But even as he said that, James knew they needed more. They had to stop this man before he crossed a line that couldn't be undone. Over the next few days, the children were kept at home, watched over by security. Clara took a leave from work, but the atmosphere at home was tense. Liam, perceptive as always, noticed the anxious glances and hushed whispers. "Are you guys scared?" he asked one evening after Isabel had gone to bed. James sat down next to him. "We're just being careful, that's all." "Are we in danger?" James hesitated, then said, "There's someone bad trying to scare your mom, but she's not alone. And neither are you." Liam looked at him for a moment and said, "So, can I stay closer to Isabel just to be safe?" James smiled, his throat tight with emotion. "Of course you can, son." It was on a cloudy Tuesday when chaos came knocking, literally. The intercom rang. A delivery man said there was a package downstairs. James hadn't ordered anything but decided to go check. Just to be cautious, he asked Clara to stay in the bedroom with the kids. A few minutes later, a security guard came running up the stairs. "Mr. Carter, you need to see this right now." At the front desk, there was a sealed brown package. No name, no sender. Inside, only one thing, a tablet. When they turned it on, the video started automatically. It was a compilation of footage, old videos of Clara in vulnerable situations, humiliated, crying. Some showed Isabel as a baby, sitting in the corner of a messy room. And at the end, a message appeared. "Either you disappear, or this goes to the press in 48 hours. James closed the tablet forcefully, his jaw clenched. "That's enough." That same day, he took the video to the police. The lawyer filed an urgent restraining order against Mark and Vanessa. Still, it felt like they were always one step behind. He could release this at any time, the lawyer warned. "And if he does," Clara asked, "will we survive it?" James looked at her, serious. "We've survived worse." While the lawyers moved into action, Liam and Isabel sat on the living room rug, making a poster with colored pencils. They wrote things like, "Mommy is strong and Daddy is a hero." They added hearts and stars, as if the world could be fixed with glitter glue. Clara watched from a distance and then cried, but it was a different kind of cry, not from fear, but from pride and love. The next night, the lawyer called. "We found Mark. He was hiding at a small inn outside the city. He's already been arrested. The police confiscated his electronics, and there's enough evidence to charge him with threats, extortion, and illegal possession of private material." Clara dropped onto the couch in shock. "Does that mean it's over?" "It means he'll face the consequences, and now you can breathe." James walked over and wrapped her in a tight hug. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to breathe deeply. That Friday, things returned to normal. Isabel went back to school. Liam spent the weekend with them, and Clara returned to the restaurant. Lauren greeted her with a warm smile. "They say you just won a battle. Welcome back, warrior." That night, James took Clara out to dinner. Just the two of them, no security, no phones, no fear. "You look beautiful," he said when he saw her. "And you look like you're about to do something crazy." She laughed. "Maybe." Over dinner, they talked about the future, about traveling, about turning the apartment into their forever home. And then, at the end, James stood up. He took a small box from his pocket and got down on one knee. Clara covered her mouth in surprise. "I don't have an expensive ring right now, no flowers, but I do have the certainty that you're the woman I want to grow old with. You, Isabel, Liam, we're a family, and I want to make it official. Clara, will you marry me?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes." At the next table, noticing what was happening, people started clapping quietly. That night, back home, Isabel and Liam were waiting with shining eyes. "Are you really getting married now?" Isabel asked. "We are, sweetheart," Clara replied. "Then can I be the flower girl?" she shouted, excited. "And I'll carry the rings," Liam added. James smiled. "You two can be whatever you want, 'cause this wedding is for all of us." Sunday morning came with sunshine. For the first time in weeks, James's house was completely at peace, no rush, no fear, just the warm sound of two children laughing in the living room while picking music for the wedding party. Clara sat on the couch with a cup of tea, watching with a calm smile. Since the proposal, something had changed inside her. For the first time, she truly believed she could be happy without always worrying about what might go wrong. She had survived the worst, and now she was ready to live the best. So, should the flower girl wear a crown or a tiara? Isabel asked, holding up two options in front of the mirror. I think both might be too much, sweetheart, Clara said, laughing. Too much is never too much for my mom's wedding, the little girl replied, certain. Liam came in with a small notepad. Do we have confirmed guests yet? You're taking care of the guest list? James asked, as he walked into the living room with grocery bags. Yes, and I'm thinking of a 2-tier cake, chocolate with almond cream, nothing less. This kid is a little executive, James joked, heading to the kitchen with the bags. Clara stood up and walked over to him. She gently touched his face. We still haven't picked a date. We can pick one today, he replied without hesitation. How about a month from now? She raised her eyebrows. A month? Small, intimate, beautiful, just the people who matter. She nodded. A month it is. Then, while the kids were playing with glitter and construction paper, James got an unexpected call. It's about the case against Mark Sullivan, the lawyer said. He made a deal with the prosecution. A deal? He confessed everything. Gave evidence that Vanessa was the one behind the blackmail, and that she got money from 2 other people connected to Clara's ex-husband. In return, he'll serve 2 years of house arrest, with an ankle monitor and strict restrictions. James rubbed his face, exhausted, and Vanessa, an arrest warrant's been issued. We're just waiting to locate her. As soon as she's found, I want to be the first to know. Of course, but for now, you're safe. In the days that followed, the house turned into a hub of little decisions. Clara tried on dresses, simple but elegant. Liam tested entrance songs. Isabel insisted on rehearsing her grand entrance down the living room hallway, and James handled all the administrative details with a calm that surprised even himself. At night, when everyone was asleep, he'd find himself watching Clara as she lay beside him, her face peaceful. Sometimes he'd just watch her. Other times, he'd silently thank God that she came back, that she survived, that she was there. One Friday, while Clara was closing out the restaurant's register, Lauren walked in with an envelope. This came for you, hand-delivered. Clara frowned and took the envelope. No return address, no markings, just her name written with a regular pen. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Only one sentence was handwritten. Not every monster stays locked up forever. Clara's blood ran cold. The police said Vanessa is still on the run, James explained hours later. But they think she's out of support. She's on her own. That doesn't mean she won't try something, Clara replied, tense. She's always worked from the shadows. We'll increase security for the wedding, and if she shows up, it'll be the last time. Clara nodded, trying to stay calm. She wasn't going to let anyone destroy what they were building. Not this time. The next week, Greg and Susan stopped by the apartment. They brought flowers and warm smiles. Liam is doing well, really well. And more than that, he's happy, Susan said after a big hug. Thank you for trusting us with him, Clara said. Greg looked at her for a moment. You're a part of him. You always will be. That's just the way it is. But what touches us the most is seeing how you're not trying to replace anyone. You're just adding to his life. And we'll never forget what you've done, James added. Liam came running out of the living room, waving a piece of paper. You're coming to my wedding too, right? Susan laughed. We sure are, champ. 1 week before the ceremony, Clara got a surprise visit at the restaurant. It was an older woman with tired eyes and her hair simply tied back. Clara recognized her instantly. Mrs. Maria, Clara said, surprised. The woman nodded. I saw you on TV. Recognized your last name. You used to work at my brother's bakery. Remember? Of course I remember. You helped me so much back then. The woman sat down, a bit hesitant. I heard David passed away, and I wanted to say I never knew what he did to you. I only found out later through conversations. I should have done more. Clara took a deep breath. Those words, even late, felt freeing. You shouldn't carry that guilt. The only person who should have done things differently was him. The woman smiled, her eyes filled with tears. Your son, Liam, he looks happy. So do you. I'm glad you got out of that place. Not many do. Clara reached out and held her hand. Some scars never go away, but we learn to live with them, and sometimes even smile with them. 2 days before the wedding, Clara visited the old orphanage where she had stayed for a few months as a teenager. She wanted to close that chapter. She left a donation in Liam and Isabel's name, then spoke to the director about starting a social project with her restaurant group, hiring women in vulnerable situations, teaching them a trade, giving them a second chance. "You're becoming an inspiration, Clara," the director said. "No, I'm just trying to give back what I received." The night before the wedding, James came home with a gift. It wasn't a ring or flowers. It was a small wooden box with simple carvings. "What's this?" Clara asked. "Open it." Inside was a letter written by him. "You taught me how to be a father even before I saw Liam run. You taught me how to be a man before I became a husband. And you taught me that the most valuable things in life can't be bought, can't be planned. They just happen when we least expect them, like you." She read in silence, cried, and hugged him for what felt like forever. That night, neither of them slept. They talked about the past, about what they had lost, about what they had found, about what comes after. "Promise me that even after we're married, you'll still sleep holding me like this," she whispered, her eyes already heavy with sleep. "I promise, even when we're old and wrinkled." I'll never get tired of hearing that, and I'll never get tired of saying it. The big day started with a clear sky and a light scent of flowers in the air. The sunlight came through the apartment windows with a softness that felt made for the moment. Clara awoke before everyone else. She walked to the balcony and took a deep breath. It wasn't anxiety. It was peace. In the living room, the chairs had been carefully arranged. The wedding would be held right there, in the place where everything had started again. James wanted it to be intimate, familiar, and so did she. On the table, a photo in a frame, a recent picture of Liam with Isabel on his shoulders, both laughing by the ocean. Next to it, another frame, this one older, a faded photo of her and James as teenagers, sitting on a swing, laughing at something time had long since taken away, but now felt like part of a destiny that had only fallen asleep for a while. In the children's room, Isabel was bouncing with excitement in her little white dress. "Mommy's going to look like a princess," she said, spinning with her flower basket in hand. Liam was carefully placing the rings in a small box. He was serious, as if he were in charge of the most important mission in the world. "Everything has to be perfect," he said, checking the ribbon's position for the third time. "It will be," James assured him, walking into the room. "Because you two are the heart of this day." Liam smiled. Isabel ran to hug him. James wrapped them both in his arms and held them there for a few moments. Nothing in the world compared to that kind of love. As the guests arrived, Greg and Susan were the first to approach Clara. "You look radiant," Susan said, "and very calm," Greg added with a smile. "I feel ready for the first time, without fear of the future." "That's true love," said Susan. Outside, Lauren was finishing up the final details with the staff. The restaurant had provided part of the team to make sure everything went smoothly. "If anyone says I cried during the kid's speech, I'll deny it," she said, wiping the corner of her eyes. The ceremony began with the soft sound of an acoustic guitar. Clara entered through the living room door, hand in hand with Isabel, who scattered flower petals along the way. Her eyes met James's, and the world around them seemed to disappear. He was there, standing, emotional, his white shirt slightly wrinkled from the nerves. A quiet smile, a full heart. Liam stood next to the makeshift altar, holding the ring box with both hands, standing like a true gentleman. "You can start," he whispered, looking at the officiant. The officiant, a childhood friend of James's, spoke only a few words, simple but deep. "What we see here today is not just the union of two people, but the reunion of souls that survived everything, the silence, the distance, the fear. And now, they've chosen, fully aware, to go on." James held Clara's hands. "I promise to love you not only on sunny mornings, but through cloudy nights, not because you're perfect, but because we're imperfect together. And even so, nothing is missing." Clara smiled, her eyes filled with tears. "I promise never to forget where we came from, and never let the past define us, because the life we're building now is already worth a lifetime." Liam walked over and handed them the rings. "It's official now," he whispered. They exchanged rings, and when the officiant declared the "I do" accepted, the children ran to them, hugging them at once. The guests clapped, some cried, and others simply smiled with their eyes. It was a small ceremony, but it had everything that truly mattered. During the reception held on the building's rooftop, James pulled Greg aside. "I wanted to ask you something. I was wondering if it would be all right for me to start calling Liam my son, not just at home, everywhere. Greg looked at him, silent for a second, then nodded. He already is. You just needed to accept it. Later, Clara danced with Isabel in her arms while Liam pulled Susan onto the dance floor. James watched for a moment, then walked over and gently twirled Clara, making Isabel giggle in the air. "This feels like a dream," he said. "It's real, and this is just the beginning. Are you sure you don't want a honeymoon in the Maldives?" "My honeymoon is right here," she said, "with them, with you. How about a trip with the kids during the next school break?" Approved. They laughed together and danced until the music stopped. In the days that followed, their routine returned with new energy. The restaurant launched a new social program to support women in vulnerable situations, led by Clara. The first group started with 10 students, most of them single mothers, some still living in shelters. "We're not giving charity," Clara said during meetings. "We're giving opportunity." Her life story had been featured in a well-known magazine, and unlike what she feared, the response was overwhelming. Speaking invitations, partnership offers, donations. But she turned most of them down. "I want to grow slowly, sustainably, with purpose." 1 month after the wedding, Vanessa was found, arrested in another state using false documents. She was extradited and would face all charges under monitored release until trial. Clara received the news calmly. She was at peace. Nothing threatened her anymore. One autumn afternoon, Liam came home from school with an envelope in hand. "Mom, can you read this?" Clara opened it and smiled. It was a note from his teacher. Liam spoke about his family with so much pride that everyone wanted to draw their own families too. He told us he has 2 homes, but 1 heart that fits them all. "Congratulations. The love you have for him is easy to see." She looked at James, deeply moved. "I think we're doing this right. We're doing our best, and that's everything." Later that evening, with the kids fast asleep, they sat on the couch side by side. Outside, the city sparkled with building lights and the distant sound of life moving forward. "Are you still afraid?" he asked. She paused for a moment. "I am, but not of the future. I'm afraid I'll forget how hard it was to get here and stop appreciating all of this the way it deserves." James pulled her closer. "Then let's promise something." "What?" "That we'll always remember, so we never lose what brought us here." She nodded. "Promise." And that night, they fell asleep in each other's arms, like so many other nights. But this time, with the certainty that they no longer needed to run or hide or fear the pain, because the love they built was strong enough to endure anything and gentle enough to make everything worth it.